All right, dudes. Good morning. And this beautiful, there's my buddy Banksy. This beautiful autumn morning. It is, what is it, October 30th? 2021 today. I'll talk about this neon. I should have looked, but I can't remember if I did a video on the neon light that I had, or the ultralight. I don't remember. LMAX single standoff. I know I did like a taking apart. I think it was like don't drink and take apart a Shirogorov kind of video. But booby, no barking. But yeah. Anyway, thought I would talk about this Neon Zero, and gosh, this is a great knife. So I bought this real quick. Little background. New from Recon 1 like 2 weeks ago, maybe even more than 2 weeks ago. And I've definitely been EDCing this knife, and I probably will end up doing some comparisons with this, but this is, actually I do have two knives on me right now, but the other one is not really good for comparison. It's a custom Swan. Yeah. Initial impressions, which I'm pretty glad I didn't do a review. Initial impressions was that it had just an absurdly, and this is coming from somebody who loves a strong detent, but absurdly strong detent. Like the entire detent ball was going and does go into the hole of the blade. And so, I mean, part of it probably is because I've developed a wicked callus. You can look at that on my finger. But the other part is, man, because it does sit all the way in the ball, like if you even breathe on the lock bar, you can't deploy, if you will, the blade. So major learning curve, honestly, of opening this thing, because it's like literally, like I said, you cannot in any way rest part of a finger on this lock bar, which is funny because like I was just like, I'm gonna be beating myself up if I don't return this. Like that's how bad it was, and because it's just almost unusable. But I was just like, you know what? I do like how stiff it is, though. So, you know, that just for security reasons of like staying closed. And so I was like, maybe I can just develop, because I was doing things like just only like, all right, I'm only going to pinch the pivot like this and literally not touch anything else. And then it would be like, okay, so it's doable. Anyway, I don't want to go on and on about that. Long story short, I pushed through it. Look at this guy. Oh, he was rolling. I pushed through it and am super, super pumped that I did, because it's fantastic. And another thing that I really like about it too is it's almost like other people can't open it or use it, because like I said, they're just gonna grab it and be like, you know, it's impossible. That's how much it is. That's how big of it. I mean, like literally, you will not be able to get this open. If doesn't matter how hard you push. If like you're even resting a finger on this, which I think a lot of people will see as a. Did I just double it? No. Sorry, I'm gonna get some coffee. As a negative, and I thought it was at first too, but it's turned out to be, I'd say at least not a negative. I would maybe not a positive, but it's kind of cool, because now it is second nature. Occasionally I'll grab it and forget, or not necessarily forget, but just kind of be fumbling with it and push on it. It's like, ugh, and it hurts the finger. But Anyway, um, that is really kind of the only thing um, that is worth even mentioning. That well, you know what? Let's go over some of the other negatives, or like is not negatives, but things that I'm just like, that's that's not the best. The number one for me is just kind of the pointiness of this. Um, that's number absolutely numero uno. It has turned out to be a complete and total non-issue functionally. I kind of suspected it might, but it's turned out to be absolutely a complete non-issue. Don't notice it. Don't think about it. It's not like, my hand rubs this end or anything like that. But it's sharp and like, or not sharp, but it's like pointy-ish in like every way. That's rounded off, but it's a little pointy. But that kind of cupped area there kind of catches the skin. Doesn't catch fabric or anything like that, but I think that doing that is not worth even if it's a 1/4 inch, it's not worth any extra blade length, because this thing has a way big enough blade. It could be a 1/4 inch shorter, and I wouldn't give a shit if anybody was upset about it personally. Just to have like a beefier, more blunt end on it. I would personally prefer if that lanyard loop were just a hair thicker. I mean, that thing is pretty damn thin, which isn't an issue unless it were to get like smushed somehow. But that could get smushed. Could be a little thicker. Even if it was just the tiniest bit thicker, it would add a lot of strength to it. 10,000ths of an inch. That's pretty much it, honestly. Things that other people seem to give a shit about that I absolutely don't give a shit about. One is the proprietary hardware. Couldn't care less. This is great hardware. Absolutely. I would never change a thing. And I certainly wouldn't change it out for a Torx. Like, no fucking way. You can turn this with a penny. You can turn this with a dime. Why would I not want that? Free spinning. I couldn't give a flying fuck about free spinning hardware. Go get your balls out of your wife's purse and fucking hold this damn screw while you unscrew it. That's what I would do. What else? Oh, the non-caged bearings. I couldn't care less about the non-caged bearings personally, because I don't plan on ever taking this knife apart. If I do, I'll cross that. I'll use a Frisbee. At least knowing that is half the battle. If you didn't know that and you went to take this knife apart, that could be a huge bummer. But yeah, I really couldn't care less about that. You don't need to take your knife apart. Like, almost never. Especially like this knife right here, and even more so kind of because of the bearings. Especially if you had access to compressed air or something like that. You could clean the fuck out of this thing without taking it apart. Because you can get all in there between the bearings and stuff. If you were to, fill up a sink with hot water and really swish this around in there, like, there'd be a pretty substantial PSI moving around in there, and you could totally rinse this thing out and get it clean as fuck. I like to rinse knives with like the hottest hot water that I can possibly handle. Rinse, like really heat this thing up, and then tap it on like a towel, something that's not going to cause a lot of lint. To really wrap on like against the towel, and then open it up, and while it's still nice and warm, it'll dry out really quick. If you have the luxury, you can use compressed air, obviously, as well. Let's see. I'm not a huge fan of this tiny screw here. I really have a lot of faith in Shirogorov, so I feel like it's probably fine. But I sure would like to see a larger fastener here, if not 2 fasteners in this. One's fine. I mean, I'll take one, but I would love to see it, again, 10% bigger than this, if not 20% bigger than this. I think that'd be great. I wasn't a huge fan of the blade shape initially, but it has totally grown on me, and it's an absolutely fantastic utility shape. You see, I got my plague bead on here. That's another thing I will say. So I had the monkey edge frag version in my cart, and I was almost prepared to buy it because I knew that I was going to get a Zero as my next purchase, but I opted out because I was going for the utilitarian, grippy aspect of the frag, but I was like, in the end, I wanted the sexier one, and I was like, I feel like, even though it's as plain Jane gets for Shirogorov, pulling off a really great flat finish like this it's harder than pulling off a ball-ended grooved handle, for sure. Any kind of pattern will break that up and make it easier to deal with, but this is stellar. I mean, I immediately, upon opening it, was like, yep, made the right choice. This thing is baller. So I prefer it, I would say, aesthetically for sure, greatly to the frag. It's slippery as all get out, though. It's as slippery as it looks. And so it's great that they have this lanyard attachment to it. I've recently become a fan of lanyard beads and lanyards, and I don't know that I found the perfect bead for this Neon Zero yet, but this is kind of my favorite bead for it as yet. Nice thermoplastic bead. This is Ultim, that won't scratch up the clip, won't scratch up the knife or anything like that, and still looks pretty sick. It's a little skull. But I almost feel like a lanyard is, as long as you're going to have this for a real EDC, and it's going to be a using knife, you use it for whatever, take it out of your pocket. I feel like it's best to have a lanyard on this thing. Again, this might not be a good look for everybody, but I really like it. It's a good setup. So that's neither here nor there. It's neither a pro nor a con because it's a trade-off, but it is pretty dang slick. It would not be, putting some kind of pattern in here would be kind of a pro move to be able to just grip it and rip it, boys. Put it here for a second. Get some cafe. Look at this guy, he's loving it. Tell you what, man, this is it's definitely one of the nicest knives I've ever owned, just from design and a just build quality standpoint. It's fantastic. It's funny is this just blows the neon light and neon ultralight fucking straight out of the water. I know they both have multi-row bearings, all that. I guess I'm all about this backspacer in the back. I mean, it's cool as shit looking, but it also, just adds rigidity overall to the handle. And the way Shirogorov does their backspacers, most of you guys know this already, is that they're actually inset. They're machined and pocketed out to go in there, and then there's a pin that goes through. It's like what they call a blind hole. It sticks into both handle scales and then goes through the backspacer hidden inside there. That's really cool. Very cool. Lockup is perfect for me. Not the crazy Shiro, but I think a perfect spot for me. The action is perfect for me. I'll do a comparison against my Holt. What do I have? The haptic. For me, I would just say right out the bat, I was actually comparing them pretty heavily last night. The Shiro just blows it away, and for me anyway, it just blows it away. It's like the Shiro comes in like the smoothest motherfucker in the room and just exudes confidence, where the Holt comes in pretty damn good, but is trying too hard, if they were people. What else can I say about this thing? I wish it were a little thicker. Blade stock is fine, but I would love for it to be 10% thicker. Would be great. The clip is fantastic. You know what? It is a pocket shredder. Everybody will say that who actually carries theirs. I'm definitely going to deal with that at some point in the near future, because it just destroys pockets. So probably what I'll end up doing is, I guess I'll take it apart and sand it down. I'm not going to bend it. I would rather have the same profile here, but get the relief underneath. So I'll just sand that down and take it down a little bit. Probably take it down just a little bit, and then blue tape underneath this before I install, probably 2 layers of blue tape underneath it before I put the clip back. And then I can just like take a piece of sandpaper, the wet dry stuff that's like cloth, stick it under there and move it back and forth and really custom tune it. Love the way they did that lock bar relief. That's very cool. It's just classy. Anywho, what else can you say? I haven't used it enough to resharpen it yet. You know, I'm a use your shit kind of guy. But when you're talking about a $715 knife, you have a fucking lot of tools and a lot of knives. You use the right tool for the job, and a $715 knife is not the right tool for every cutting job. So put that in your safety whistle and smoke it, boys. Palabra tu madre. Have a good weekend, everybody.